Good morning. Guess what service this is today? Mardi Gras, yes. We return again to create beloved community. And first we acknowledge here in the CSRA, we reside on the lands of the Westo people, the Savannah Shawnees, and Yuchi peoples of the Muskogee Confederacy. I'm Jezibell Anat. My pronouns are she, her, or your majesty. I am delighted to be working with Reverend Nic, music director, Josef Patchen, special guest musician, Rudy Volkman, our tech crew, our choir. Everybody's here to help make us look and sound good, so we welcome all of you as we share these moments in our life, and we are so happy to see both in-person and Zoom visitors. For Zoom people, please stay around a few minutes after the service so you can say hello. For our visitors, please fill out the blue card in the seat pocket near you and put it in the collection plate or give it to me or Reverend Nic after the service so that this information can help us stay in touch with you. We got king cake back there. You guys want to hang around for this? Yes, king cake. Homemade king cake. Yes.
Chris and Matt for making that.
Aha. Oh yeah, and just be careful. There are figures of baby Jesus in the king cake, so bite and chew carefully. You don't want to chip a tooth or swallow baby Jesus.
We don't do mass here.
No. No. Yeah, there might be a little cut or a tear in there. And whether you're here for the first time or the thousandth, we are happy to see you and celebrate with you this morning. Okay, we got stuff coming up here, guys. Today, Mardi Gras. That means this Wednesday is Ash Wednesday because these holidays are intricately connected. There is a period of great feast leading to the time of Lent, which is a serious time where there is often restriction in religious times. The wheel of the year moving from the rich to the lean, from the experience of life to the awareness of death. So for our UU Christians, or all who are welcome, who are interested and can come in the middle of the day, there is an Ash Wednesday service at 11 a.m. this morning on Wednesday, February 22nd. It's coming Saturday at 2 p.m. There is a march to stop the gun violence and crime organized by the CSRA Community in Action, beginning at Dias Park and ending in May Park. And this is especially important because of just the recent rash of mass shootings. Social justice team is meeting next Sunday shortly after worship. Come and hear about the cool work we're doing as we are partnering with a former Richmond County public defender to hold our courts accountable and move towards a more equitable justice system. Pledge Drive is coming up March 5th. You'll be getting all kinds of pledge material, including our fiscal goals for next year. And if you'd like to share why you'll be raising your pledge, or even starting to pledge if you haven't already, to support the work next year, please see Reverend Nic to talk about your involvement. If everyone can think about why they contribute to the mission of the church and why they might want to increase their contribution for next year. One more thing I'm really happy about, to help accommodate Sunday morning choir rehearsals, because right now we're a little crunchy with choir rehearsals and the amount of tech rehearsals we need to have a smooth service. Beginning on March 12th, services start at 11:15 a.m. So please remember that. If you happen to come at 11, that's fine. You're welcome to hang out until we start. But this is also when daylight savings time begins. So you'll only lose 45 minutes of sleep that night. You're welcome. So choir rehearsals then start, sorry choir, it's going to be early for you guys, start at 9:30 on Sunday mornings instead of 9:15. So hopefully that will help people a little bit with coming in to be able to sing for us. And if you're interested in the choir, you can speak to our music director, Joe Patchen. And thinking about how you might contribute to our UUCA auction this year, which will be May 6th. Last year was a wonderful show and fundraiser, and we really hope to do it again. We want to keep trumping ourselves, so let's keep working on that, get some ideas. And now, I invite you to relax, take a breath, and enter into a time of worship.
Today's chalice lighting words are short yet sweet. Paul Simon says, "Come on, take me to the Mardi Gras, where the people sing and play."
Our opening hymn is number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Please rise in body or spirit.
Inside us, believe. Now is the time in our service when we share those joys and sorrows that have come into our lives over this last week. This is a
Now is the time for all ages, so we would like to invite the kids to come up and join us. All who are young at heart, probably everybody in here.
Today we're going to do a couple fun things for our time for all ages, or as we are calling it today, our Carnival for all ages. And the first of which is Jezibell and I are going to tell you a story that I co-wrote with ChatGPT. And yes, it is actually pretty amazing. But this story is kind of a way to talk about Mardi Gras, what it is, and what it might do for us, the meaning it might make for us in our lives. So with that, go ahead, Jezibell.
Once upon a time, in a land not too far away, there was a festival that lasted for days. Mardi Gras was the name, and people would march and sway to music and costumes in a powerful and joyous display.
Children of all ages would run and play dressed in colors and masks so gay. They would dance in the streets night and day and enjoy the magic that would come their way.
For Mardi Gras was a time to celebrate the power of love and to liberate the pleasures and senses that we create and the friendship and joy that would permeate.
They learned that each person has a right to express themselves with all their might and to love and cherish, flipping day and night, without fear or shame, laughing through shared plight.
For pleasure and sensuality are a gift that brings us together and helps us lift the barriers and chains used as a rift, and to celebrate love however we might. That is our heart's shift.
And so the children marched, danced, and played, aware of the power that love conveyed and of the joy that would never fade, as Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, was displayed.
And as Mardi Gras came to an end, the children left with a message to send, that pleasure and love should injustice bend, and that our whole lives be celebrated to the very end.
For pleasure and sensuality are a powerful act that liberates our hearts and brings us back to the beloved community. That is our track. And to the joy and wonder that you humans sometimes lack. And with that, let's not lack any joy and wonder right now, because we're going to have our own little Mardi Gras parade, led by our kids here. They know the direction of the parade route. So as they come by, led by Noah, they're going to go this way. And people who want to march with them come in behind them or march beside them. They'll kind of go in a loop. And if you don't want to march, which is totally okay, you may have noticed there are plenty of beads on the backs of chairs. If you want to be the bead throwers lightly, I don't want any eyes taken out today, but just a little toss or even a handoff is fine. But this is a moment where we can really have some fun. March, move your body to the music, and you know what? Just let the Spirit take you straight to joy. With that, give us our send-off.
Grown-ups are encouraged. Yeah. Play is not just for children.
center for your motion.
Back to the center.
And now we're going to let the kids continue their little parade out to their faith formation with Miss D. Hit it, y'all. As it is with our lives, we sometimes can go from a joyful moment to a more afflicting moment. Moments that add grief to our lives, add sorrow to our lives, and yet may still connect us even more deeply than before. And we have to acknowledge that even when we have joy and pleasure in our lives, we also don't want to set aside and shun the bits of us and the bits of our experience that are a little more difficult. And with that, I'd like to invite us into a time for prayer and meditation, a time that we can sit with all the emotions that we experience from moment to moment, connect to our bodies, notice how those emotions impact our whole existence. And as we do that, I invite you to sit comfortably in your chairs, whatever that means for you. If you want to fold your hands, clasp your hands, or close your eyes, or look down, whatever is most comfortable for you as you connect with the mystery which is life. Spirit of love and life ever permeating through us, around us, with us. We first offer gratitude for the moments that we can come together and have some fun, have a little play, experience joy together. We do so in the midst of a world that is sometimes can feel like it's going the wrong way, just nonstop. A world that is so full of grief and sorrow and tragedy and violence. I'd like to name a few of the things that have happened just this week. Just this week, there was another school shooting at Michigan State. A shooting rampage in Mississippi on Friday. A shooting rampage in Columbus, Georgia yesterday. It is an epidemic that is just swallowing us. And then, of course, the natural disasters that are having such an impact on the world. We really need to name the absolute tragedy that has occurred in Turkey and Syria. The last number I heard was 41,000 people died. And there are human-made disasters also, like the ecological disaster from the train explosion in Ohio, with a chemical explosion that could be seen from outer space. And of course, the ongoing war of aggression in Ukraine, and the deteriorating relationships between superpowers in the United States and China. So much uncertainty, so much fear, so much tragedy. And yet, we also have so much to cheer for, to applaud, to bring us joy. Many of us were at the interfaith service offered by the Progressive Religious Coalition this past Wednesday with compelling and provocative reflection from Dr. Eddie Glaude. And sometimes we can applaud and cheer and celebrate when we kick cancer's butt, or when live theater returns after some time, giving folks both a creative outlet and also providing such meaning-making opportunities for the folks who witness these events. And just us coming together this morning, that in itself is something to celebrate. Life is indeed a mixture of pleasure and pain. May we experience it all while decreasing suffering and increasing the joy within, among, and beyond us. Now we enter a moment of silence to hold all this in your hearts, followed by reflective music, which will close this time of prayer. Blessed be all our lives. May it be so.
Mardi Gras is a material celebration. We enjoy the sounds, the color, the movements, the feelings in our body, the sensuality of the sounds that we hear, the visual display of color and joy. Material. The word goes back, mater, the great mother, magna mater, Mother Earth, for we know all our riches are from the earth. And why some of us have riches more than others? A combination of privilege, chance, availability of opportunities, and yes, our own efforts as well. But as Mardi Gras is a holiday of equals, as within our masks, the social statuses are mitigated and we become one community. So we ask now that through your material gifts, we become one community. And we ask now that our offering bowls be our own chalice of generosity, and we encourage you all to donate to the best of your ability. If the ushers will please come forward. We can improv some ushers. Thank you. Okay, all right. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you all for your generosity. So since today is all about Mardi Gras and the meaning we can make and the importance of sensuality in our lives, I thought it was better to do this sermon in relationship and dialogue, in conversation. And so Jezibell and I are going to be chatting a little bit about some of the historical bits of Mardi Gras that are important even today, and also, let's talk about sex. So, indeed, pleasure is important in our lives in a lot of different ways, especially if it is not entirely self-indulgent. Every once in a while, self-indulgence not bad. But the main bit of what we're talking about today is the relational, responsible pleasure that helps us to live into beloved community more fully, more richly, and to make our lives more full and whole.
And depending on where you are in your own personal journey, Nic will be talking about our Whole Lives program. I'm not familiar with that material, but I know for myself and that some of us were raised in very restrictive households, and we know there are religious denominations that don't dance, and I have, as a belly dancer, encountered some people that are going, oh, hoochie mama, and make all kinds of judgments about the dance, because the idea of people moving their bodies in a free way to them is wrong or evil. And yet we have instances in the Bible where Jesus is celebrating a wedding and David is dancing and Miriam is dancing. So we have a lot of, even in Judaism and Christianity, dancing references, but coming back to hedonism versus relationship. Some of us need to start with healing ourselves, and sometimes that's the point where we can start to move into more hedonistic communal relations with others.
And the thing is, it's a liberative act to do these things, to free yourself from, I know that I use this kind of $10 word, hegemony, a lot. The hegemonic idea of how we're supposed to live our lives. The supreme idea, as it were, of how we're supposed to be. And when we move into these kinds of super free, joyful ways of being, it's radical, and also subversive, and I love subversion. So,
but it can be scary for people too.
It can be, and Jezibell mentioned the Our Whole Lives curriculum. Who here knows about Our Whole Lives, or OWL? Okay, so we have a little bit of work to do. It's Our Whole Lives is a series of curricula created in partnership between the Unitarian Universalist Association and the United Church of Christ. And it's developed for specific developmental stages of life. There's a pre-K to first grade version, there's a second to fourth grade, there's the biggest one is 7th and 9th grade, and there's an adult version that really looks to destigmatize sex and sexuality as part of our whole lives. We are indeed sexual beings, that we can't set that aside entirely. With respect to our asexual folks here, which is a perfectly fine way of being, also kind of a radical subversive way of living one's life. Even from the very beginnings of our lives, as Our Whole Lives suggests, we begin to have sexual experiences when we drink milk from our mother's breast, and that's just something that's kind of part of who we are, and even that is stigmatized in a lot of ways, which is so sad. But I know that there are some subversive kind of movements out there. Excuse the expression, but there's the hashtag #FreeTheNip thing, But I'm going to try my best not to blush today, because that's part of the goal.
You could have worn a mask.
I could have worn a mask. Take it away, Jezibell.
All right, with a lot of the destigmatizing, again, it's a process. People coming from different places. And I think a lot of times, I've talked about this in Goddess Group and other areas, when we are so cut off from our sexuality, there is a tendency for some people to deny everything, or because they are so unused to these types of feelings, they might feel anything as sexuality and mistake something that may be more sensual because that's all they know. And I've talked about this a few times, that a lot of our work in what we might call more responsible sexuality is connecting these sexual feelings that are in our root chakras, our pelvic area, into our heart chakra, connecting with emotion, as well as with our spiritual concepts, our sense of enlightenment, and that includes sexuality. And it's that view in the Eastern sense of the Kundalini serpent rising from the pelvis up through the head and into what we often think of as the higher region, so that all of these aspects are integrated holistically. So it's not something that is just sexual or just emotion or just a spiritual experience, but they are all connected. And I feel like sometimes, I know we are very, very aware of the need for consent and not encouraging rape culture. And sometimes the approach to that is often to cut everything off. Nothing must be sexual, nobody must touch. Touch definitely must be consensual, but it doesn't mean that people don't have feelings or that feelings are wrong. There are what is an appropriate action or not, depending on you, the other person, consent, etc. But I feel like sometimes being told not to sexualize, again, depending on the context, can make people feel bad for having sexual feelings, which is as shaming as a parent telling a child, don't masturbate, that's bad.
And when we talk about the word sexualize, the kind of bad connotation of that is when you start using sexual tools like flirtation or other types of dance, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you start using that as a way to manipulate or coerce people into a situation that they're not comfortable with, that they don't really want to do, and that's why even within this conversation, the idea of power and how it plays is so important. Because if there is a severe imbalance of power between two potential partners, no matter what, you're risking abuse. So that's something that you always have to keep in mind. Our new covenant here asks us to increase our awareness of power and privilege, and that comes into play in times when sex is a possibility as well. And when we have consent, when we have true, somewhat equal power consent, honestly, the pleasure really should heighten at that point between two people or more. So it's really funny that just yesterday at dinner, I got a New York Times notification that about a story that says, it's literally called, "Are We Not Having Enough Sex?" They're talking about sex and pleasure and the importance of that, but in the sense that there's also an epidemic of loneliness happening, at least in this country, but I'm sure around the world right now, that, you know, kind of probably emerged at least partially from COVID and our seclusion during, you know, like a year and a half to 2 years. And so at least this writer suggests that like Mardi Gras, there's a need to kind of reinvigorate the sexuality and the sensuality in our lives to connect us more deeply. And that's, again, I'm just going to keep coming back to that bit, that this is all about furthering our human connection within and among and beyond. Kind of going along with, you were talking about the root chakra and the connection of all that, using some more Western language. I'm going to channel Chris Garcia here for a second. We don't want to bifurcate our different selves. We don't want to like have different aspects of ourselves that aren't totally connected and whole. Integrate is, I think, a great word to say that.
Yeah, and that's coming back to self-awareness as we become more aware of different types of sexuality, especially along the LGBTQ spectrum, as people are finding themselves non-binary, honestly looking at who they are attracted to, because, you know, I've known of cases where, because of dominant culture mentality, a person who was gay ended up marrying a straight person, having kids, and then finally understanding who they were, which caused a great deal of hurt with their straight partner and their lives. So it's, again, starting with yourself. And I know there are people who are very cautious about saying who they are, but I always, if you are in a dating situation with someone, you need to be clear about who you are and what type you are looking for to avoid this kind of confusion. And I'm just knowing a lot of people and seeing miscommunications and another person, like, I was interested, but I thought he was gay and he was bi. So people might have made connections if they had been more open about themselves. And I know that can be tough for people, but especially I would encourage us here as we are accepting of who we are and finding what we need. All of who we are, yes.
And with that, I'd like to move a little bit into specifically making meaning about Mardi Gras and kind of the like long time queering of life that Mardi Gras does. That it messes with the status quo so much, and that's the very heart of Mardi Gras, which also means which is Fat Tuesday, is the opportunity for folks to everyone to become royalty, and especially lower class folks, folks with less fortune, less material fortune, kind of living into a royal kind of way of being.
People with less status in dominant culture.
Right. And that's what the masks are
Yes.
kind of about. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, the idea of the masks is that it is an equalizer for those of different social situations. And this type of carnival situation goes back to, I can't claim that Mardi Gras itself is pagan, but it's similar to some pagan festivals such as the City Dionysia or the procession of Isis to the sea, where there was a lot of revelry, masks, people celebrating, and New Orleans in particular, with its mix of many, many cultures and different religious strands. Their Catholicism is a little different from what you might think of as traditional Catholicism, in that it does allow for this revelry and this blowout. There is one theory that historically we know we are approaching the end of the winter before the spring crops come in. You want to eat up all the food before it goes bad, and that was part of the Lenten fasting to deal with the hunger that you might have until food came in. But also the idea of switching up the statuses. And in ancient Rome, it was Saturnalia, where the servants would serve the people on top. And it is topsy-turvy, and music and dance, getting people to move, that kind of parade feel where anybody and everybody can join in and move together.
Just like with healthy sexual relationships that we were talking about before, the Mardi Gras experience is very aware of power and how power plays in big ways and small ways.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of misbehavior during Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the core heart of what it is, and that it's not just been about class power and imbalance of power. It's also been a great way for people of color, going back to slavery, that there was a chance for both slaves and freed people of color to experience this event, put masks on, be involved with a revelry that they wouldn't necessarily often be involved with. So even from that standpoint, Mardi Gras has been about kind of subverting the dominant cultures. I want to talk a little bit about the three colors of Mardi Gras, because those, I think, are really important for us to make some meaning from it. So there's purple, green, and gold, and I have all three today. So I have purple, green, and I picked up some gold beads. So I'm doing what you asked me to do, Jezibell, and wearing a costume.
Yes.
So though all three of those colors have an indication of royalty. We talked about how everyone can kind of be royal during Mardi Gras. And so that's the main kind of bit of the historical reason why those emerged. But also in 1892, the Rex, or King, parade theme that year was symbolism of colors. And they gave additional meaning to the three colors, the gold, purple, and green. Purple represents justice. Green represents faith. And gold represents power. So even for the last 120, 130 years, there's been that very intentional idea of faith, power, and justice kind of wrapped up with the Mardi Gras experience. And I'm honestly very down with all those ideas personally. But I think overall, the Mardi Gras celebration, which isn't just the Tuesday before Lent, it leads up to it, but
They've been partying for weeks. I mean, they've been partying since Three Kings Day.
But all of it is a liberating, powerful act of getting out of the dominant structures that kind of control our lives. And I think that's a really wonderful thing for us to keep in mind. But also the pleasure aspect of Mardi Gras is so important that we, as Jezibell so eloquently said earlier, we often hide from that element of our lives. And as one of my favorite authors, Adrienne Marie Brown, talks about in her book, Pleasure Activism, as we do hard work, as we experience life that often brings the more afflicting emotions or brings the occasional grief, it's so much more important to lean into the pleasurable moments of our lives as well, so that we can continue to move through the difficulties. And with that, I want to do, yes, I was pretty intentional about our closing hymn today. When the Spirit says do, sometimes you got to do. And with that, let's sing When the Spirit Says Do.
Okay.
Spirit do, when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do, oh Lord, you gotta do when the Spirit says do. Spirit says do, 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 Spirit says do.
To paraphrase sportscaster Chris Rose, Mardi Gras is the love of life. It is the harmonic convergence of food, music, creativity, eccentricity, community, and joy of living. All at once.
Laissez votre rouler!
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of passion. Know you when the wind rise in the sea. Moon in the hand, giving life a shade of justice. Roots holding rose, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Watch out for that Jesus.
Choke on Jesus. Don't choke on Jesus.
I
That's
hope
great.
you enjoyed it after all the work. It happens to me all the time. We were so happy to have you. Yeah, it's an old railroad term. So, and it refers to several old, the lyrics talk about several
Wonderful.
different
Thank you
dances
so
that we
much.
did.
Oh, yeah.